In the stories of Genesis, the poor as such are not mentioned. However, the vulnerable stranger and civilian prisoners of an aggressive war are the stand-in for the needy. Abraham's and Lot's hospitality to strangers, Abraham's military intervention to redeem captives, Abraham's appeal to God to maintain strict legal justice in judging Sodom, and God's destruction of the cities that exploit and abuse guests and resident aliens like Lot. Thus, in the tale of Abraham's calling to live and to teach, the divine path of the duties to the poor must be counted under the obligation to help God bring justice to this world. Those in need of aid were not Hebrews, but rather human beings, as these stories precede the formation of the Hebrew people. The Hebrew people, Abraham's disciples and descendants, are called into being to model a blessed way of treating those in need of support. They are called upon to stand up for justice and hospitality in favor of those who are vulnerable, like travelers and strangers. Abraham had no historic memory upon which to build his values and no experience of suffering. But after the trauma of our enslavement in Egypt, the Torah turns that dramatic memory of self as victim into a ritualized and legalized collective memory that is meant to teach the generations who Israel is and how Israel should behave towards others. Why? Because one's own suffering generates empathy with others. The treatment of the outsider is the litmus test of biblical ethics. This is highlighted by the numeric count of the Torah's warning about a Hebrew's obligation to the resident alien. The obsessive repetition of concern for the other suggests the difficulty of enforcing and internalizing this message. Therefore, the Torah uses powerful narratives to harness, to portray concern for the stranger as natural to one's self-understanding as a Hebrew and a servant of God. When Israel as a nation was born, the people came to know themselves as strangers, exploited as resident aliens by a systematic economic and ethnic oppression that intentionally embittered life with harsh labor. But interestingly, biblical law apparently never forgot Israel's appreciation for the Egyptian hospitality in times of famine in the days of Joseph. So we are told, do not despise an Egyptian, for you were a stranger in their land. If Israel recalled only its period of persecution as strangers in Egypt, that might very well lead to permanent national hate. But this is annulled by the nurturing of a positive memory, referring to an earlier age when Egypt shared its grain with the desperate, starving clan of Israel and opened its borders to resettle the whole family of Jacob. Thus, we are told, do not despise an Egyptian, for you were a stranger in their land. The first law code of the Torah, Exodus 21, opens with laws for the liberation of slaves in the 7th year. Just after God is identified as, "I am your God who took you out from Egypt, the house of bondage." And after the slaves are promised a rest period on the weekly Shabbat, the social legislation of Exodus protects the stranger, the resident alien or guest worker, and widow and orphan from exploitation, and the debt-ridden poor from harsh dunning of their debts. The Sabbath and the sabbatical year are given in order to feed the poor and to allow them to rest on the sabbatical year. The level of justice in a state is to be measured by the justice to which the defenseless resident alien is entitled. This principle separates human dignity from the accident of birth and upbringing.